We're going to start with the AFC North, and we're going to start with the team that lost to the Rams in the Super Bowl. Just heartbreaking. Should have won the game, but they didn't. Regardless, we're going to get into it right now. Offseason preview for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, in my opinion, I think it's just all about getting offensive line help for Joe Burrow.
No doubt.
They just franchise tagged Jesse Bates. I'm sure they're going to work out a long-term extension for him. At least I think they should. But, Joel, in your opinion, how do you see this offseason playing out for the Cincinnati Bengals? What moves do you want them to make?
When you go to the Super Bowl, especially guys on your team, they're going to want a bag, right? So I think Jesse Bates, who we agreed had an up-and-down regular season, played really well in the playoffs, he's going to get paid like one of the highest paid safeties in the league. And you have to. You know, he's only 25 years old. He's still in his prime, or maybe not even reached his prime yet. They have a lot of pretty big free agents, though. Quinn Spain, Jesse Bates, Shizay Uzama, Riley Reef, Ogunjobi, BJ Hill, your boy Auden Tate. They do have some money, about $50 million. That's without even like making any cuts or restructures. So they're going to have the money to bring their guys back. But I agree. You know, O-line is going to be their number one need. It was their number one need going into last offseason, and it was really the talk of the draft, what they're going to do with, you know, Sewell or Chase going at 5. I think we all agree they made the right choice, but the offensive line issues still persist. And it's impressive that they even made it this far with such a poor offensive line. It's really the first time, and I couldn't remember how long, having such a bad offensive line and still being able to get through and make the Super Bowl, even though their first couple of games against the Raiders and Titans, maybe not the best of teams, but hey, they went and beat the Chiefs, so all the credit to them. But it has to start offensive line, really not a shock to anybody. You know, it went from terrible in 2020. It improved slightly in 2021, but still, their number one need for sure. Jonah Williams is probably the only player on this offensive line that's going to be guaranteed a starting spot next season. And since a lot of their stars are still on rookie deals, like the Joe Burrows, Jamar Chases, T. Higgins, they have the money to spend up on offensive line. They do. They have the money to go and sign Teron Armstead. Like our guy Mike Sands all over Twitter wants him desperately, or Brandon Scherf, Ryan Jensen, Cam Robinson, who potentially could hit the market as well. And all of these guys would improve their line tremendously. You know, they went, like I mentioned, they were one of the 5 probably worst offensive lines last year according to PFF. So they have a ton of work to do. That should be their number one priority. They do have a couple other needs. I think corner is a need for them as well. They have a Awuzie who's going to be there, but Eli Apple's a free agent who isn't the most popular player amongst the league or on the field as well. Had a bit of a down year. No way. Mike Hilton played pretty well. It's primarily a slot corner though, so that's probably, if they do bring him back, he's not a free agent actually. But they're gonna need a boundary corner to play opposite of Awuzie. Mike Hilton, I don't know if you guys saw this. It was probably like 2 weeks ago at this point. But he tweeted something. I wish I had the tweet up. But he tweeted at J.C. Jackson basically saying, like, I know a spot where you'll be appreciated. You know, basically saying, like, come over and play with us. So if they were somehow able to bring J.C. over and really get that number one corner ball-hawking guy, they have the money to do it, and you pair him up with Jesse Bates, you know, you're going to have a secondary that's going to be able to go and get some turnovers. Then the last spot I want to talk on to is just tight end a little bit. You know, CJ Uzama has played well for them he's been on their team really the whole year, his whole career. I was surprised when I looked it up. I thought he was more of a journeyman, but he's really been on their team for like 6 years. So he just hasn't really produced much. You know, he's been either, you know, blocked on the depth chart or hasn't been used really till this season in the receiving game, injuries as well. So I think that's another interesting area. I know Gronk has been rumored to want to play with Joe Burrow. If they're able to, if they're able to upgrade the tight end position, obviously Brady retired. If he wants to go and pursue another championship, tight end's a spot where they could upgrade because we know how great the receivers are, how great Joe Mixon has been. So I think upgrading from CJ Uzama could just be another area they could attack the middle of the field from.
One thing I'll say is, only reason I wouldn't be so adamant on going to get J.C. Jackson is because I see the needs on the offensive line, and I would rather spend the top dollar on fixing the offensive line than adding a piece to this secondary that already had produced at a decent level for us last season. You're 100% right. They could use a little bit of depth, but I think that through this draft, you can use a late round pick, a second, a third on a cornerback, and maybe you can take a shot in the dark there and it hits. That's just sometimes how skill positions work. Ultimately, though, J.C. Jackson's price tag is not one that I would pay as opposed to Teron Armstead or a Brandon Scherf or a Lincoln Thompson, just to throw another name out there that's not one of the top-notch names out there, even though he's definitely still someone who most teams are going to be targeting. Ultimately, the Bengals don't have many needs, in my opinion. You have corner that, yes, you could address, but outside of offensive line, there's nothing that the Bengals should be looking at and thinking, yeah, we really could upgrade. Tight end, you mentioned, I think Uzomah fills in the role perfectly fine. Gronk would be intriguing, obviously, for name value alone, on top of the fact that he is a great blocker. And you bring that type of force to this offense that's already one of the more high-powered in terms of weapons in the NFL. You add Gronk to that mix, they're even better than they already were. I like the Gronk idea because of the blocking. They need blocking to protect Joe Burrow. You can't have him continuously scrambling outside of the pocket the way that he did this season. He's going to get hurt like he did in his rookie season. And I don't want to put that out there. God forbid. You'd hate to see a player of his caliber injured again. You see that he has the capabilities to do it, but you don't want Joe Burrow scrambling outside the pocket almost every single play trying to make things happen. He can do it, but you don't want to see it happen because you're putting him in harm's way. You'd rather put him in a situation where, similar to Justin Herbert, where last year he was basically doing what Joe Burrow did. But the past offseason, Chargers really came in and they really honed in on making sure that we were protecting Justin Herbert, and it showed this season. It showed this past season, Now you're going to do a similar, or the Bengals should at least try and mirror what the Chargers did this past offseason to protect Joe Burrow. You see what Joe Burrow can do when he reaches his ceiling. Take this team to the Super Bowl. The needs, 100% needs to be focused on offensive line, and I'm not even thinking anything else.
I think offensive line is the biggest need, but they do have holes. I do think they need a boundary corner. Like, I like Awuzie a lot, but they need somebody else. Eli Apple is just not going to cut it. Primarily, I think he played pretty good in the Super Bowl. Even though the biggest plays of the games were on him, those were perfect routes, perfect passes.
Execution, for sure.
Yeah, the execution was just there.
Matt Stafford was just too good, you'd say, probably.
I think, OBJ, Cup, yeah, those guys are really good.
OBJ was not even playing in the second half.
But he had a big-ass catch, though.
That was a perfect pass, I would agree.
It
was a perfect pass.
Oh, my God.
It was a little bit of both, but I think I'd give more credit to the receiver, but neither here or there.
Okay.
They could get some cheap corners, though. I understand what you're saying.
Defensive tackle, BJ Hill's a free agent. Larry Ogunjobi's a free agent. So the interior of their defensive line is going to get torn apart if they don't bring one of these guys back. Now, between the two, BJ Hill's more the run stopper. Ogunjobi's the better pass rusher. Really, it's a pick your poison kind of thing. I like BJ Hill more. He was more durable. Ogunjobi got hurt in the playoffs, but, I mean, you lasted the entire season pretty much and got hurt in the playoffs. Larry Ogunjobi does have some motor issues here and there, though he doesn't try his hardest on every single snap. So it's really a pick your poison thing. They have $57.8 million in cap space projected to have because they're going to cut Trey Waynes. Trey Waynes, they can save $10 million on the cap if they cut him. They're probably cutting him. And for everybody out there saying the Bengals are a cheap team, the Bengals don't spend big in free agency. Maybe in the past, yes. But in the last 2 seasons, they've spent big. In 2020, they went and got DJ Reader, who has been the foundation for the interior of their defensive line. And I misspoke before. DJ Reader's still there, so they'll have an interior defensive lineman. But BJ Hill and Ogunjobi were huge additions this past offseason. And then you look at this past offseason, they went and got a Trey Hendrickson, who had the most sacks, who was tied, or at least for the most sacks in 2020. So the Bengals the past 2 years have been spending big in free agency, and I think they're going to spend big this offseason because they see the team they have, they see Joe Burrow, and they're like, this guy can be the best quarterback in the NFL. I think it's very possible. Maybe he's not the most physically imposing. He's not a Josh Allen or Mahomes or Herbert physicality-wise, but when you talk about just his approach to the game, reading defenses, he has the entire package.
Physicality in what sense? Because I feel as if...
Arm strength.
Okay, fair.
Run mobility.
That's where I kind of disagree. I feel like his mobility is very good.
He doesn't have Allen mobility,
yeah, of course. Though. No. But
no, you're saying like on their...
Yeah,
I mean, Josh
Allen's a one-of-one when it comes to that.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And him and Herbert, I'll be honest, it's pretty close.
Herbert's more mobile than Burrow, though.
It's closer than the gap between him and Allen.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
This offseason, like you said, it's all about offensive linemen. And I think the number one player they should be targeting is Ryan Jensen from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has been one of the better centers in the NFL for the last couple of years. I think the center position we talk a lot about tackles because it protects the quarterback's blind side, but the center is arguably the most important position on the offensive line.
Second most important.
Because you have direct communication with the quarterback. They're the ones that are reading the protections. They're the ones that are reading the defense and communicating with the quarterback directly. And it's basically the nucleus of the offensive line. I think Ryan Jensen is the number one priority. They should absolutely 100% bring back Quentin Spain. I mean, when they got him, when he was released from Buffalo, and they signed him for cheap, he's been a breath of fresh air because he's been somebody who has been consistent and reliable at the guard position. Trey Hopkins, I'm not sure if he's going to be a cap casualty or if he gets moved to guard, but I wouldn't be opposed to either. But there's a lot of options, Laken Thompson, Connor Williams, Austin Corbett, at tackle. Everybody talks about Teron Armstead. That would be huge, but I think even getting a guy like Morgan Moses would be an upgrade to their offensive line. And I'd also get a cornerback. I feel like the Bengals can convince one of these veteran corners that are still great, that are still good, to come to Cincinnati and play. Would I rule out a Stephon Gilmore in Cincinnati? I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out. I think maybe he's looking at Cincinnati like they can make a run. Mm-hmm. Carl Davis, he is, to me, the most under-the-radar corner in this free agency class. I think Carlton Davis is going to be a great signing for any team that signs him. My hypothetical offseason for them, I'm going all in. Burrow, Mixon, Chase, Higgins, Boyd. I'm keeping Uzama. But you guys mentioning Gronk to Cincinnati, I think that would be great. I mean, it would give them a blocker to chip.
Correct.
Edge rushers, and we saw what he did in Tampa.
He still got it.
When he had
more than.
He still got it.
When he wasn't asked to chip in that playoff game versus the Rams, and he was able to run routes, he was doing damage. And had he been able to do more of that, the Bucs probably win that game. But the defensive line was just getting to Tom Brady all day.
Unbelievable.
Hey, what do you mean?
Give it a
what
rest.
do you mean?
Give it a rest.
No.
Your agendas, they make me sick.
An offensive line, this is my dream offensive line for them. Teron Armstead at left tackle, Quentin Spain, left guard, Trey Hopkins, keep him at center. I know I said Ryan Jensen, but Trey Hopkins, because it's either Jensen or Armstead.
I understand.
Austin Corbett at right guard, and I'm moving Jonah Williams to right tackle, and he's the right tackle. Mm-hmm. I think that'd be an average offensive line. It's going to rank top 17 at least. It won't be the 20. It won't be a bottom 25 offensive line. Yeah. It won't be one of the best, but it'll be an average one. And I think given the weapons they have, they'll be able to do it. And in terms of defense, Hendrickson, Reeder, I'm keeping Hill, Hubbard's still there, Logan Wilson, really great in coverage, Jermaine Pratt, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Carl Davis, Awuzie, Hilton, Bates, Von Bell. They don't have to make much change. It's going to be the same thing. I just think adding one more corner and the Bengals will be fine.
Now, question, are you assuming that the Bengals just go O-lineman in the draft, which is why they only bring in one in free agency?
No, I don't think they go O-lineman in the draft.
They could also go corner at 30, 31.
That's what I'm thinking. If I'm them, I would...
It's probably like someone like
more
Trent
likely
McDuffie
to get a solid corner in that back end of the first.
I feel like for the Bengals, having a roster that's ready to win now, you got to go and just sign the players that you know what you're going to get from them.
Correct.
The draft for me, if they want to draft an offensive lineman, he's BPA, best player available, go do it. But I think it should be more for defense or even drafting a receiver, because Tyler Boyd's contract is coming up.
Auden Tate's a free agent.
Yeah.
He is.
So with all these, with all this stuff coming up, with all these contracts coming up, Tyler Boyd might be the guy who they might have to let go.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's between T. Higgins, Jamar, and Boyd, they're letting go of Boyd.
They're still a couple of years away from paying T and 4 years away from paying
That's
Jamar,
for sure. But I think just drafting a receiver just to have that assurance for Tyler Boyd, I think could be good for them.
That could be a day 2 pick for them for sure. I think in the draft, at 31, it makes...
So you're telling me if a receiver...
Jahan Dotson,
like Jameson Williams is there.
You close your eyes and you do that.
Yeah, I don't think Jameson Williams. I mean, he might be there at 31. Who knows?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
He will be.
Like a Jahan Dotson too, though.
That's someone who's more realistic. Sky Moore probably someone who could be there as well. But I think at 31, it's got to be corner. I feel like the corner class is really deep. The offensive line class is really deep.
McDuffie.
Yeah, McDuffie from Washington, I believe. Both, honestly, the interior, the offensive line and defensive line of this class is really deep. So they could get a starter whichever way they go there. A couple guys from Georgia who put on insane combines possibly. But I think, 31, and then day 2 you could address. I don't know if they're going to go receiver. They just spent back-to-back years, Chase at 5, T. Higgins at 33. So I don't know if they're going to spend another day 2 pick on a receiver, especially since it's the furthest thing from a need for them. They have 3 really good receivers. But it's interesting because your boy Auden Tate's a free agent, so they're going to have to replace him.
So, I hope he gets an opportunity. Bengals fans know Auden Tate can show out and show up. That's a bad man. You respect him.
I do.
Respect him.
Auden Tate this season, 2 receptions.
Opportunity's not there. And he was injured.
Jordan Palmer talked about it.
Yep. Got to be prepared.
But he had to be. Was he?
When he's prepared for his opportunity.
How many games
he's
did he
prepared
play
for his opportunity?
God.
Pull up his pro football.
No, in all seriousness, I know what you're talking about. Earlier when you talked about Gronk, Rob Gronkowski has came out and he said the only other quarterback I would play for is Joe Burrow.
That's cool.
They have to make that happen.
If the Bengals can get Rob, you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Rob Gronkowski, Joe Mixon.
Good luck.
That's an unstoppable offense. And they're unstoppable now.
Obviously, everyone looks at Gronkowski and his amazing receiving numbers, his amazing receiving attributes. You can't forget about his blocking. Yeah. He's the greatest tight end ever. For not only is he one of the best receiving options there is, but he's also the greatest blocking tight end to ever exist.
He's just, man, he's 6'7", 260.
And I apologize to Auden Tate. He had 3 receptions this year for 39 yards.
That's good.
And a touchdown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He got in the end zone. Game? I don't think so, actually.
Bro, 3 receptions, 39 yards. That's 13 yards a reception.
Yeah, that's firm. He was hurt a lot of the year, I know.
And his long was 18 yards.
Yeah, I saw that play.
Explosiveness, you would say.
That was a great play.
All right, all in 3 different games. He had 4 targets this season.
Sorry. Auden Tate, he's a solid receiver, man.
Solid?
He's a good depth place. He could be your wide receiver 5.
Bro, he can be a wide receiver too. Give him the opportunity.
Wide receiver. He could be better than T. Higgins?
Maybe in Detroit. No. Maybe in Detroit.
I would love that for him.
He's not better than Amon-Ra.
No. Oh, my God. No way.
They're 2 different styles of receivers,
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Jalen Waddle and Corey Davis are 2 different receivers. Waddle is clearly better.
Okay, but you give Auden Tate an opportunity and watch what happens.
Yeah, come on.
You know, when he signs with a team that I feel like in the offseason, it's like, wow, that was great. Watch you guys change your tone when he shows up.
I think Auden Tate could be a nice piece who could get 20 to 30 catches.
I think he's all right, sure, but I'm sorry.
He has a guy.
I'm sorry.
More, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you guys disrespectful.
No, man, no.
You guys are disrespectful.
You know why?
This is my fault. I brought up Auden Tate being a free
You guys
agent.
are disrespectful, man. I don't like this tone.
So, listen, man, you guys, real quick before we move on, do you think there will be any Super Bowl hangover from the Bengals? Or do you think business as usual, they're going to go ahead and win the division?
I don't know if you feel similarly, but I feel like personally, they're in a different mindset as an organization. Joe Burrow now has come in and he's tried to instill a different culture. And I do believe that it is going to be the exact same way next season. They're going to come into this season even hungrier than they were this year because there was not a quarter of the expectation of what they ended up doing this season. So for the fact that they actually felt a taste of success and just came up a little bit short, they're going to want to come in this next season. They're going to want to be even better than they were in 2022, and they're going to want to try and win a Super Bowl.
I have to see how the offseason plays out to see what teams make moves. But based on these offseason previews and looking at the other AFC North teams, the Bengals are in the best position. And the Bengals are in the best position to win the division next season.
For sure.
Without a doubt. Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the division. Because of that, I think they have a great shot at winning the division.
You always have a chance to feel like Burrow. We said it like 2 weeks ago. I'm going to let him have his moment. He just went to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to knock Burrow, but you guys know where I stand on who is the best quarterback in that division.
I think it's Baker. That's why I can't side with you.
I think he's Baker. Oh my God.